Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grand Cruz Astrology. My name is Clayton Cruz, and today we're going to look at 2024. I'm going to primarily start out with just looking at what jumps out at me. Okay, for the year, I'm doing a bird's eye view, and I'm not getting too much into later in the year because not a lot jumped out at me. And as we get further into the year, I'll cover down the road more, but I really want to spend more time covering what we have here in the near term because as we get further in time, it kind of loses context and perspective. So, first, let's just look at this chart. Now, this is a chart for January 1st at noon on the West Coast. So on the West Coast, and I like it. I like January 1st. I like how we're starting off the year. Just looking at the sun and the moon in Earth signs trine to one another, and then you got Uranus creating a grand trine here, a nice solid Earth trine to start the year, which is good. I mean, we're in 2024, and numerology that adds up to 8. And it has a lot to do with very strong. It's a number of leadership and solidity and execution. It's a very executive kind of number. So this is really matching that as far as how we're starting off the year on January 1st. What I also like about this and what kind of contributes to my thinking on this is that we on December 31st we have Jupiter stationing direct. Okay, now Jupiter spends a lot of time retrograde. I don't normally cover Jupiter, retrograde and direct, but the fact that it's going direct on New Year's Eve, there's something symbolic here about some hope and optimism, some expansion and vision for the future. And being as in a sign of Taurus, this can be, very solid, very practical, and feeling like we are secure within ourselves and within our resources. And how can we further that? And how can we expand that? And how can we grow that? And how can we be more resourceful for ourselves and to others as well? And so there's a lot of energy here to start the year, kind of giving us hope about expanding in that way. And as we see as we go forward through time, this will be revisited again. Now, that's on December 31st, and then on January 2nd, we have Mercury going direct. That's going to be in the sign of Sagittarius, late Sagittarius. So, that's great. I mean, Sagittarius is a Jupiter-ruled sign, right? So to have Mercury there in Sagittarius, going direct to start the year, that's. I mean, you could almost say that even though Taurus and Sagittarius don't really have much in common at all, Mercury and Jupiter share a little bit in common, and the fact that Mercury is in a Jupiter-ruled sign really speaks to this year. I think starting off with just that Jupiterian optimism, just having that big picture, it's all going to be all right kind of feel, and just there's good vibes here. Okay, there's kind of holiday hope and expansion, and when you think Jupiterian energy, you think Sagittarian energy, think like Thanksgiving, right? That's kind of the holiday season for Sag, and Jupiter's the ruler of Sag, and you got Mercury in Sag to start the year, Jupiter going forward. There's some positive vibes here. I like it. It's just it feels good. Just collectively speaking, there's an energy to tap into here now. So that's that. That's the start the year right there at the beginning. So I mean, it's going to be just a really good time to map out your year a little bit. Kind of, put some things on paper, put some ideas on paper, dream things out. Don't get too lost in the details of it because Mercury and Sagittarius doesn't really care too much for detail, but it does want to dream. It does want to talk about it. It does want to, put it down on paper and whatever. It does want to verbalize this and to share it. So indulge in that a little bit. And being that Jupiter, the planet Jupiter itself, is in the sign of Taurus, this can be made real. Okay, this can be, keep it in 3D, keep it in fixed Earth. Some ideas can come to fruition later in the year. So that's how we're starting the year. January 22nd, we're going to have Pluto ingress into Aquarius. Now, I've talked about Pluto in Aquarius before because I do believe it was back in May 2023 for a couple of months there. Pluto had entered into the sign of Aquarius. And I'll say it again that, Pluto in the sign of Aquarius, it brings a lot of energy into the sign, right? Because wherever Pluto goes, it stays for 15 years plus, okay? And so it moves very slowly over each degree of that sign of each degree of the sign. It's very thorough. It's very intense. This is the planet of death and rebirth, of transformation, of intensity, of power. It can have a lot to do with psychodynamics, right? So, being that it's moving back into the sign of Aquarius, we're being reintroduced to that Pluto in Aquarian energy. What does that look like? Well, Aquarius is fixed air, has a lot to do with group. It's very humanitarian. It's very technology centered, and it's very for what's best for all, and yet it does have this quirky individual side to it as well, and being accepting of these things. Now, when Pluto goes in, it brings attention to Aquarian ideas and ideals and energies. It brings attention here, brings power here, but it also brings the dark side with it. So over the next 15 years or so, there's going to be more influx and more of a push for this kind of Aquarian energy. But there's also going to be the dark side that comes with it. So, you're going to be seeing, because Pluto rules the underground. So it brings out as this energy comes into the forefront and comes into the light to be seen. It also brings that which is outside of integrity, because Pluto demands integrity. It's the truth. So with this Pluto being in the sign of Aquarius over this time period, this is a long transit, we're going to see a lot of this humanitarian, accepting energy of outside the norms, of goofy, of weird, of you name it. These kinds of energies that are Aquarian. You're going to see an influx of this energy, and you're going to see this energy being elevated to the forefront. And with that, we're going to see all the pimples of it too, right? And we're going to pick it apart, and what we'll be left with is what has value. And so, Pluto in September is going to go back retrograde back into the sign of Capricorn. It will finish out Capricorn for the few months there. It'll finish out its time in Capricorn until it goes direct again. And then in 2025, when it goes back into Aquarius, it'll be finished with Capricorn. Okay? And so Capricorn, Pluto in Capricorn has been the old guard. It's been the tried and true. It's been the institutions and the ideas and just these tried and true beliefs that are solid as rock that we can depend on. And this gets into ideas and ideals, all of these things. Well, Pluto has gone through and questioned all of them, said, which of these are outside of integrity? Who does this serve and how, right? It's really had us really do an inventory on what works and what doesn't. So moving into 2025 and forward, when Pluto goes out of Capricorn, whatever we're left with from the past, because Capricorn rules the past, whatever we're left with from the past and our traditions and our history, whatever we find is still in integrity, that's what can move forward, right? Because the long process of Pluto and Capricorn will be complete at that time, and we can build upon what's left. So That's that Pluto energy there in 2024. Also, on January 27th, we're going to have Uranus stationing direct. So if you had to give a planet to Uranus, I'm sorry, if you had to give a planet to Aquarius, I think most astrologers would give Uranus I mean, that's the modern day ruler of Aquarius, right? The past ruler of Aquarius, um, the classical ruler of Aquarius is Saturn traditionally, but the modern day ruler of Aquarius is Uranus. So again, the timing of it with Pluto going into Aquarius and then Uranus stationing direct 5 days later, it just signifies like there is um, this is an energy of change, and the winds of change are blowing. This is kind of has a revolutionary spirit to it. You know, but with Pluto being where it is, it's going to have us question the integrity of that. So that energy is in play to start the year. January looks like an interesting month, with things getting kicked off. There's a lot of hope. There's some gusto here. Just it looks like things can happen. So um, now I'm just going to skip over to March. Right around March 25th, we're going to have March 25th. We're going to have a full moon eclipse, south node eclipse in the sign of Libra at 5 degrees, and that's going to be trine to Pluto. So, I like that trine to Pluto. You know, the full moon. Again, I'm not going to go and get into every little moon that we have here this year. There's too much, but I do want to look at eclipses here to start out the year. And so, March 25th, we do have a full moon eclipse at 5 degrees of 5 degrees of Libra and its south node. So, a full moon eclipse, it brings something into light, something that needs to be a release when we're talking about the south node. Okay, being that it is in the sign of Libra, which is about one-to-one connections and balance and harmony, in order for us to feel balance in our lives and to feel that equanimity and harmony that we need, it could be that at this time there is some kind of release, some kind of letting go. This could be of a relationship or some kind of dynamic within a relationship, some kind of, uh, you know, adjustment of the power psychodynamics within relationships. Something is changing here. Something is being released. Okay, with it being enshrined to Pluto, it looks like that death and rebirth will actually be nice in a way. It'll be flowing. All right, because trines are about flow and ease, right? So it looks like there's a wind of change. You know, we're we're releasing our grasp of something perhaps relationship oriented, socially oriented, that is uh, going to be, I think, it's going to free us up, and it's going to be it's not going to require too much effort. I think this could just happen without us really even trying, to be honest with you. So that's kind of a nice energy there on March 25th. April 8th, we have a North Node eclipse at 19 degrees of Aries. I'm going to start talking about April because April, without a doubt, from what I've seen, is the most active, charged, volatile month that we have here that I've seen, okay, for the year. Um, so I'm going to go over a couple things. I'm going to backtrack back into April too, because I'll start with this eclipse. April 8th, 19 degrees, 24 minutes of Aries, North Node eclipse. Okay, and so, um, you know, that's going to be the second and third week of April with that eclipse. First of all, that eclipse in Aries, Aries energy, North Node, it's a solar eclipse. This is really about I am statements, okay? Okay, right around that April 8th. It's a great time to declare yourself this, declare yourself that. I'm doing this, I'm making this decisions. Be executive, be bold, be forthright, be willful. Um, there's an energy here pushing to do that. Okay, almost like it's, because eclipse is involved and it's a north node eclipse, almost though it's destined for one to take this step, or be bold in this way, blah blah blah, whatever that may mean. But I caution any rash action at this time. Just be mindful of what is coming with this, because it looks like this is kicking off some energies that are going to ruffle some feathers. So that eclipse is on April 8th. I'm going to come back to that. On April 10 through 12, we're going to have an energy that is can be very frustrating, can be very inhibiting, can have us feeling very stuck um, physically. Now, this is Mars in the sign of Aries. Mars in the sign of Pisces being conjunct Saturn. Okay, that's April 10 through 12. This energy, we're going to have a lot of, likely have, not, I wouldn't say an overabundance of physical energy, but there may be, we may feel like our adrenals are on high, like we are charged, that we want to move, we want to act, we want to be willful, we want to press forward on something. But with Saturn here, it is saying no. It's like, feeling hemmed in and wanting to break out. This energy can be very frustrating. It can be uh, just feeling like we're just being boxed in and we can't break out of it. Now, the best way to understand this energy is understand that it's only a couple days and it will pass. The way to use this energy is to express the energy in a very disciplined way, right? So Pisces is the sign of, it's a mutable water sign. It has a lot to do with compassion and boundarylessness and feeling one with all. Having Mars here conjunct Saturn in the sign of Pisces, um, something very disciplined, but maybe even involving something like dance, right? Like a very structured dance would be a great way to use this energy. Now, there are all kinds of ways to use it. I mean, even yoga would be good, but like, use this energy. Really take the time for this couple of days here to exert your energy and to wear yourself out with it, in whatever form. Okay, but do it in a way that's disciplined, that's controlled, that's not the kind of thing that's haphazard and risky, right? But is very kind of controlled and within bounds, and yet maybe has some kind of artistic component to it, like dancing or movement or Tai Chi or yoga, something like that. I mean, there's all kinds of things that fall under this description. Just giving you a few. So that's that. Now going back to the eclipse. Now eclipses, they leave an imprint in the sky, and the sooner that imprint in the sky at that degree and minute is connected with by another planet, either in opposition or conjunction, which I find to be the case, is most relevant consequence. That's whenever another planet interacts with that point in the sky, especially if it's within, the sooner the better, right? They say this imprint lasts for 6 months until the next set of eclipses. I find that, give or take give it a month or two, I think that energy can be very charged. And so for the month of April, right after this eclipse, we're gonna have both the second and third week of April. We're gonna have, oh, excuse me, we're gonna have both Mercury and Venus conjuncting with that point. Mercury is going to be going retrograde, and Venus is going to be going direct, and they're going to be interacting with this this point. First, it will be first we will have Mercury interacting with it, and then we will have Venus interacting with that eclipse point. So right around the second week, we're going to have Mercury interacting with that eclipse point, and then the third week, we're going to have Venus interacting with that eclipse point. And so what I gleaned from this is, we're talking about Mercury and Venus in Aries. Uh, Aries, Venus and Aries. First of all, we'll start with Venus. Um, Venus is the planet of balance. It's the sign of connecting, of being involved with somebody. It's the planet of relationships. It's the planet of fairness, of it's planet of finding harmony between in interpersonal connections and communication. It also rules values and valuables, and you know, Venus is it's not as a transiting planet. It's not a super heavy hitting energy, but when it's in aspect the way that it becomes involved here in a very consequential way. So Venus doesn't typically do well in the sign of Aries. It can have some benefit. I mean, this can help people to be very spontaneous and fun loving within their connections with other people. It can have them initiating things, and it can really be a very pop-in energy for social events and for people to get together in that way. But it can also be very selfish, very impulsive kind of energy, and very fly by night. So it can also be very fiery. And so with Mercury going retrograde here, um, while Venus is going over this eclipse point, Mercury is going over the eclipse point retrograde, there can be some miscommunication. There can be a lot of fun with this energy here. I like this energy, to party with, but this is not a really good energy to get clarity on. It can be a very exciting energy. It can be a very bubbling, popping, fun energy here, but it can also be a very confusing one if we're trying to make sense out of what it means, if we're asking those kinds of questions. So just be very aware of what the energy is in April. It is very charged, and it combines with another energy that we have coming up in April. I'm going to talk about that in a second, but I just want to stick with this Mercury Venus energy for a moment and finish it out, because this Mercury Venus energy, this more interrelational energy and communicative energy and interpersonal energy, this is going to be, as I said, potentially exciting and bubbly and electric, but also volatile in April. But once we get into May, Mercury's going to station direct. That'll be around May 4th, and then it will hit. I'm sorry, Mercury stations direct. Mercury is going to station direct around the 25th, that last week of April, and then on May 4th, it's going to hit that North Node eclipse point. So whatever's happening in April, I would wait till May 4th to get clarity on it. And clarity and communication and understanding can come back in a very strong way once you get into May. Things can be, the vision can, return to 2020. And once you get to May 26th, Mars is going to go over this eclipse point, and then we are going to be taking right action on whatever has transpired in the month of April. We're going to be ready to move forward with it at that time. Mars is going to be in its powerhouse of the sign of Aries. It's going to be with the North Node, getting a power surge. Great time to have some gusto, to do some things. Be careful. It can be a time that if taken overboard can cause accidents. So watch your head around that time. And Mars in Aries, always watch your head as far as being accident prone. But it looks like a good energy overall. It looks like probably have a lot, as humans probably have a lot of physical strength and be very active and yeah, we're just gonna, as a collective, maybe want to be out there a little more, out conquering the planet, I guess. I don't know, conquering the wild. Okay, so that's that. That's that Mars energy there. So backtracking back into April, because we're not done with April yet. Again, most action-packed month of the year that I've found. So, second half of April, yeah, we obviously have that Mercury and Venus energy that I've talked about, interpersonal relationships, but we also have Jupiter and Uranus getting together in the sign of Taurus. Okay, so looking at it through a financial lens, because that's another thing that I do, looking at it through the lens of equities and finance and trading and things like this, I have had some ideas around this being maybe an introduction very sharp and suddenly into making cryptocurrency more mainstream, or legitimizing it, or it becoming it becoming I mean, with it just broadening out to the point where it becomes day to day, like it becomes part of our world, like in a more accepted and permanent way, and it just being, something that we use. Obviously, these things take time to enroll, but I think the acceptance of it, uh, maybe the acceptance of it by institutions, um, including government and businesses and things like that, to a greater degree, um, perhaps out of necessity through the destruction of the dollar or something like that. I don't know. But that's kind of how I'm looking at it in a financial lens, because Taurus is the sign of fixed Earth. It has a lot to do with possessions and values and valuables and things like that. So when you have Jupiter in there, it certainly it focuses our attention and expands our attention in this realm, and we can become very hopeful and optimistic about what's possible in that realm. But when you mix it with Uranus, and it can get very revolutionary and very, very independent and outside the box very quickly. So, with Jupiter and Uranus getting together in the sign of Taurus, uh, and also being sextile to Mars and Neptune, which are also conjunct, there can be a will here to make this transpire in a very big way. Societally. Now, if we just look at it on a personal level, this can get into um, what our vision is for the future, what it is we want on a personal level, and how does that connect with society and what we feel is our purpose. We're talking about Neptune and Pisces, and Mars. We're talking about will. Mars is also in Pisces. So, like, how does what we want on a personal level and what we need as individuals, how does that connect with this greater need for service in this world and connectedness to the whole, and doing what's right by our own value system, right? Like, this is all coming together in a very nice aspect to provide an opportunity, a way forward for us to take all these pieces that are often disparate and make them into one, make them into one direction, one whole pursuit, right? It's almost like the ingredients are coming together to make a nice, formula to carry us through, right? If we choose to drink it. So there it is. But it is sextile aspect between all those planets, between Jupiter and Uranus being conjunct, and sextile to Mars and Neptune being conjunct. So it's providing an opportunity. It's not providing a guarantee. So we can take it or leave it. So there's that. So that's what I got for now. I think I'll leave it there, because as we get further into the year, I'll talk more about the rest of it. But again, I do think April and May that I've seen, that's the most that's the time of the most condensed change in 2024 that I see. There's a lot happening there. We got eclipses coming in September and early October. But from what I can tell right now, looking at it just at a glance, things cool off. After April. In May, things kind of get clear, and we have energy for it. But I think the the peak of intensity this year looks like it's going to be April. Well, that's what I got thus far. I may revise this later on down the road and see maybe there's some things that I missed, but I don't think so. I do think this is the time of the most condensed change we're going to have in 2024. So I'll leave it there for now. So hope this was helpful, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Goodbye.